Hi everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Allison and I live in Tokyo, and I am making this video rather urgently, kind of, because the JR Group released a hugely important announcement a few days ago, and I'm just now getting the chance to record this, but it is like shocking news. Honestly, I can't believe what they're doing. This is really going to change every single Japan travel itinerary on the internet. It's all going to change. Advice is just all going to change. If you are planning on traveling in Japan from this fall to in the future, you have to watch this video. So on the 14th of April 2023, the JR Group released a press release that details some very, very significant changes. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So first I'm going to go through the press release, see what it's actually saying. Then I'm going to give my thoughts on it. And then I'm going to do a price analysis to see if the JR Pass is still worth it. And finally, I will end with my recommendations and alternatives that you can use to the JR Pass, because I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not worth it for most people now. All right, so let's go through the update. So right here, we can see that the changes are going to go into effect in October of this year. It does not state an exact date in October. And it also does not yet specify if this applies to passes that will start in October, or if passes purchased, say, in September to use in October will be the old price. Anything like that, it doesn't really say yet. I'm sure they're going to announce it when we get closer, but just prepare for the worst because we don't know. So the next in this section, so currently on the JR Pass, you cannot ride Nozomi bullet trains with the JR Pass, but as of October, when this new change goes into effect, some people are saying that you can also use Nozomi trains, but I think it's kind of confusing. So it says here basically that you can buy an additional ticket. So you can pay a bit of extra money to be able to ride the Nozomi and Mizuho trains. It doesn't say they're included. You have to pay extra. You have to get a separate ticket. So Nozomi is not automatically going to be included in the new changes. As far as I can tell, if you're reading this and you think it's different, let me know. I'm not fluent by any means, so. But let's go on to the most important part, probably, the prices. So as of now, depending on which site you buy your ticket on, it'll be a bit different, or if you buy it in person in Japan, the price is slightly different. From now on, it's just one price. So up here, these are the prices for the normal ticket. And then the bottom are for the green card, which is like the fancier business class kind of ticket. So I'm just gonna be looking at the normal ones, notably the 7-day ticket, because this and the 14-day ones are the most common. I think 7 is, however, the most common. So we're going from a price of about 30,000 yen, or about $300-ish, to 50,000 yen, or about $500-ish. Depends on the exchange rate. I know it's crazy right now. Let's just keep it easy with that. So the price is jumping almost double, like over 150%. It's wild. It's wild. So to put it simply, for a 7-day pass right now, you pay about $300, 30,000 yen. 14-day pass, you pay about 50,000 yen, or $500. And then 21-day pass, right now you pay about 60,000 yen, or about $600. So we're gonna jump for the normal from 300 to 500, 14 from 500 to 800, and then 21 from 600 to 1,000. These are really big. I'm gonna dive into this more later on in the video, but that's basically what the press release says. Also, just to note, children under 6, I believe, are free, and then children age 6 to 12 are half price of all these prices. However, really important right here, it says that these prices are subject to change after the press release. So between now and October, they could see some really bad backlash and they might lower the prices, but we don't know yet. Okay, so that's all for the press release. I want to go into my thoughts on this because a lot of people are really confused. Why would they even think of doing this? They're basically gonna totally change tourism in Japan. And basically, I think that's why they're doing it. So my thoughts. So first of all, the price has not really changed at all in over a decade, when it really should have changed by now. It has not been adjusted for like inflation or anything, and it's really been priced too cheap for a long time. It was probably intentionally done in order to support tourism in Japan more, which 20 years ago, that was great. That's what they really wanted. They were really pushing for tourism. Now, however, they don't need to do that. Not only is the Japanese yen basically in a free fall compared to the USD, I think we're at like 130 yen to the dollar as I'm recording this. You know, a few years ago, it was much more even, like 106 yen to the dollar. So part of the reasons probably they want to recoup this. Do remember, it's possible they will change these prices between now and the press release, but we don't know. So yeah, I think the value of the yen, the inflation, the economy, that's part of the reason. However, I don't think that's going to be the main reason. for such a significant increase. In my opinion, I mean, I'm not like an insider on this. Everyone has different opinions. Please let me know yours down below in the comments after you watch the video. But basically what's happening right now in Japan is that we are grappling with over-tourism, especially in Kyoto. It's really bad. There's far too many tourists. The city cannot support it. The city can't sustain it. And locals are not happy. And yet Japan's still pushing for more tourism. By 2030, they have even higher tourism targets they want to meet. There's kind of a disconnect happening, and I don't think anyone knows what the right solution is. However, also related to this, Kyoto recently announced that they're getting rid of their tourist bus pass, because a lot of tourists usually use the buses in Kyoto because the trains are not great there. They don't go everywhere where the big tourist sites are. So they're doing this in order to make the buses less crowded, more like accessible for locals. But honestly, I think this could also go the wrong way. I think it could just end up with people trying to pay for the bus tickets in cash on the bus. It takes even longer, because at the end of the day, there's not really an alternative to taking the bus except for getting a taxi. And getting a taxi is much more difficult than just riding the bus for a lot of people. And it's way more expensive. So basically, we have the fundamental problem, not just with the bus, but with the trains. There's just not sufficient infrastructure to sustain the current levels of tourism. Presently, the Shinkansen, the bullet train line running between Tokyo and Kyoto, Osaka, it's the busiest in the country by far. Seriously, like every bullet train is like almost packed, and they run these trains like every 10 minutes and they're all full. They can't really increase the number any more than this. So I think, yeah, they want to fix the price, but I think they also want to just discourage tourists from using the bullet train as much, or at least this specific line of the bullet train. So that's what they want. And it makes sense until, I don't know, I thought about it a bit more, and it doesn't actually make that much sense, because what I think is going to happen is if you increase the price of the JR Pass, people aren't going to buy the JR Pass, but it's going to make tourism in Kyoto a lot worse. Why? Because, all right, this is my scenario. So a lot of tourists would usually do the 7-day pass from like Tokyo to Kyoto. And because they had the pass, they would also take like side trips. So maybe you'd go to like Takayama, Kanazawa, before you go to Kyoto. Or even in Kyoto, you go to Osaka, Nara, Himeji, something. Because you have the pass and you know you need to use it. You need to ride the train to get your values worth. So if people don't have the pass, they might likely skip out on going to these like side trips, these destinations that are like off the main line. Instead, I think people will just end up spending more time in Kyoto, because people still want to go to Kyoto. It's not gonna discourage people from going there just because there's no JR Pass. I think it's just gonna discourage side trips, because at the end of the day, the bullet train price, which we're gonna get to later, from Tokyo to Kyoto and back, it's about the same as the current JR Pass price. And Kyoto's like, you know, it's like the #1 destination. You know, you hear it in the magazines. Everyone says you have to go. So people are gonna go. But really what Japan needs is tourism to these places like Kanazawa, or, you know, really more rural than that, more out of the way, but you know what I mean. Japan wants tourism out of Kyoto, out of Tokyo. And I think this is gonna have the opposite effect. That's my prediction. We need to encourage people to spend more time outside of Kyoto, but this is going to make people, I think, extend their trips to Kyoto, because now they're paying for the whole bullet train price and they don't really have an incentive to leave quickly. So maybe this will reduce tourists using the bullet trains, but I still think ultimately the problem that they're trying to solve, the crowdedness of Tokyo to Kyoto, is not gonna go away, because people still wanna make the trip. Instead, we're just gonna make the bullet trains that go to places like Nagano or Kanazawa, it's gonna make these trains less crowded, have less tourists. Bad for local economies, the people who actually really want foreign tourists. So simply, what I predict that these changes are gonna do, well, no one's gonna buy the JR Pass anymore, basically. It's gonna make tourism in Kyoto worse somehow, and it's gonna discourage side trips by tourists to less populated, less popular areas that aren't overcrowded and that want tourists. So who should get the pass now? Let's talk about your options. All right, so I did a price analysis. I did the math. So in reality, the current JR Pass price, it's basically more or less equal to the cost of a trip from like Osaka, Kyoto to Tokyo, the 7-day one. So right now, without JR Pass price, let's see. How many trips do we have to work up to until the 7-day pass is worth it? Side note, these prices are not exact. It really depends exactly on what train, what time you're taking. So it's not exact. It's a rough estimate, basically. So Tokyo to Kyoto and back round trip, you can expect to spend about 26,640 yen. This is below the price of the current JR Pass, you might note, which is why people do the side trips, to make it worth it. So then another common route people take, they'll go from Tokyo to Kyoto, and then from there, like side trips to Nara and Osaka, and then back to Tokyo. You could expect to spend about 30,150 yen on this trip. Now we're about at the JR Pass point, the current one. We are still 20,000 yen off the new price. So let's see what we have to do to get there. So let's say we did Tokyo to Takayama to Kanazawa to Kyoto and then back to Tokyo. This would cost you 38,000 yen. We're still about 10,000 yen shy. So let's say Tokyo to Takayama to Kanazawa to Kyoto to Nara to Hiroshima to Tokyo. Finally, I found a pretty likely tourist route that would go over the JR Pass price at 56,816 yen. You might be thinking, however, it's a 7-day pass and this itinerary has a lot packed into it. It would be a very hectic schedule. Possible, you could do it. You'd still have a good time, but hectic. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you get what I'm saying. I don't think it's worth it. Realistically, you're gonna have to be traveling on that train almost every day or going really far to make it worth it. And I think kind of you should be spending more time enjoying individual cities rather than just rushing all over the place to make the JR Pass worth it. For some people, it'll be worth it. But these are just like normal tourist routes, you know, typical ones. Some people are definitely gonna wanna still get the JR Pass, but it's not gonna be for everyone anymore, definitely. I'm being honest. I should be recommending it to everyone, I'd like to be, but I just can't. I can't recommend it. It's totally overpriced now. Instead, it makes way more sense to just buy the tickets individually for probably at least 70% of travelers, I'd say. So recommendations, alternatives. Basically, yeah, don't get the JR Pass, probably. Look at your route ahead of time, plan it out, put it in Google Maps or one of my favorite apps called Japan Travel, which lets you like look up routes by what's available on the JR Pass and it shows you the prices. Look at my recent travel videos. I have one specifically about trains that talks about this more in depth. But yeah, look up the prices ahead of time. You don't want to wing it anymore. However, my second best recommendation if you don't get the normal JR Pass is actually the JR regional passes, which as of now, there has not been any changes announced to them as of now. So there's actually a bunch of regional passes. I cannot go into all of them. They do not work if you just want to go from Tokyo to Kyoto. There's no pass for that because it's really popular. But basically for like a lot of less popular routes or like you want to go to even Kanazawa, you can go to Kanazawa or Nagano or Tohoku for a really good deal on these passes. So I encourage you to look up the JR regional passes if you do want to still travel outside of Kyoto, Tokyo. There will be a good deal for you. There's so many. Please look it up. There's a link down below in the description. I use these also a lot because some of them are still available to foreign residents, which is really good. I hope they don't change that. Next, if we're looking to save money, there's highway buses. I think the all day ones they'd ruin your day. It's not worth it. But if you could do the overnight bus, if you are the type of person who can sleep on a night bus, that might be worth it. Personally, I'm not a night bus person. It's not for me, but you can save a lot of money. And there are day buses that go different places, but I wouldn't go like super far, like 12 hours on a day one. There's also another type of ticket called Seishin 18. I am mentioning it for our budget travelers, but I don't really recommend it, honestly. I've done it before. It's really cheap. What it is, it's 12,050 yen. You can go on any JR train in the country, except bullet trains, express trains. You gotta ride local, basically. Only local and rapid, I think. It will take you basically all day then to get to your destination, and it's very difficult to plan out. Local trains do not run that often when you're in the countryside. And this ticket's only available during certain periods of the year. You have to look it up ahead of time because it's aimed at like college kids. However, it's unique in that it's 5-day ticket. However, you could use it amongst 5 people on one day also, or you know, things like that. So it could be worth it on like day trips and stuff, but you have to look into your route specifically. And lastly, flying, which is often overlooked here. Domestic flying is actually quite simple. It's pain-free, especially compared to America. There's the security line's very fast in comparison, and it can be done quite cheaply. I would definitely look into it, especially if you're going to Hiroshima or further south than that. It will probably be better to fly. So yeah, I don't recommend the JR Pass. They've priced it into being obsolete, which I think is exactly what they were trying to do with this. They couldn't cancel it because they knew they'd get backlash, but they basically canceled it in effect for most people. So basically, if you're doing the normal Tokyo to Kyoto route, just pay the normal fare. It's not worth it anymore. So yeah, that is my video on this topic. It has become quite long. I'm gonna have to cut this. So let me know down below in the comments, what's your opinion? Why do you think they did this? Are you gonna use the pass? Does this change your trip plans? Remember, if you're taking a trip between now and October, you're still safe. It's just from October afterwards where it's gonna get dicey. So please like the video if you learned something new in this video, if it was helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more videos about my life here in Japan and travel tips in the future, and I'll see you guys back here again soon. Bye!